If you would like to understand what psychological traits make a man attractive to women, then I suggest you listen to the end of this video because I will explain multiple tips in depth. Tip number 1. The ranking of you in a social hierarchy is extremely important. Now, a healthy man, which we are talking about, so all these characteristics would describe a healthy man. A healthy man would probably want to have a family. Now, raising children is a very expensive endeavor. It requires a lot of resources, money, medicine, network, social contact. It's a lot. The higher up you are in a social hierarchy, the more access to you have to these resources, hence the higher the survival rate of the child. And also, what's very important is, depending on how sociable you are, you get invited to more social events, parties, social gatherings, which is super important because depending on how well you are socialized, your own mental well-being and physical well-being is dependent because our friends and our associates continuously keep us mentally sane. They keep us in check. And if you don't have those people around you, you will deteriorate. Now, in order to be invited to many events, you need to be nice. You must make sure you're not an asshole and you are fun to play with, let's say. People will invite you to play games. And it's not fun if you're always winning. You can't bash the others. You need to find a ratio where you win, so it's challenging to play against you, which is fun, but you also let others win, or else it's just not fun. And it's also important if you're socially well integrated because it also indicates whether you'll be able to teach your child to be a sociably desired individual in society. Super important. And also, the higher up you are in a social hierarchy, the less chaos revolves around your life, and that's important because chaos produces stress in a human, and stress produces cortisol, which then makes you deteriorate physically, and also stress makes you burn more energy, which makes your body depreciate quicker, and you essentially die earlier, either from old age, so your face will wrinkle earlier, or from an illness like diabetes, obesity. I believe also Alzheimer's, that rate increases if you're more stressed out in the long term, if you have higher cortisol levels. So that's very important. Now, the ability to rise any hierarchy, that is what is attractive in a guy. Not necessarily wealth, because wealth comes and goes, but the ability to climb a hierarchy. Now that's important because there are so many hierarchies or pyramids that exist in the human realm. So just because if you're dominant in one hierarchy doesn't mean you'll be high up in the aggregate social hierarchy. You want to be high in as many sub-hierarchies as possible, which then aggregates you to put you in a higher level in the social hierarchy. That's key. Now, the ability to rise in any hierarchy is heavily dependent on your IQ and level of conscientiousness. IQ is just how well you are able to come up with innovative, clever ideas, let's say a business plan, which can help you make a lot of money, or conscientiousness is the ability to be orderly, to work hard, be industrious, because success only comes with hard work usually. So if you combine IQ and conscientiousness, you'll climb ladders. Super important. And it's also like you want to be able to share resources. You don't want to be greedy. Nobody likes a greedy guy. So that's also key. Because if you have a family, you want to be able to distribute your resources you get to the family to share it. So you also want to be a nice, friendly guy. Yeah. The third tip after the social hierarchy and IQ and conscientiousness is the hero archetype. Now, the hero archetype is a behavioral pattern that describes the oldest story of mankind, or one of the oldest. It's the story of St. George. St. George is a knight who defends his castle against a dragon, a monster, which is holding treasure captive. And the treasure is the Virgin Mary. So the hero goes out into the unknown, slays the dragon, and then is rewarded with the Virgin Mary. That's the story of mankind. Going out into the unknown, into the chaos, and then fighting the dragon, which almost tears you down, but then you grow, you're rewarded with the most valuable thing. It's also the story of the Holy Grail to a degree. And because what the hero embodies is your attitude also towards challenges. Now, in a marriage and raising kids, you'll be faced with endless challenges and obstacles. A hero sees the challenge and acknowledges it and says, okay, let's sort this out. And then tries to figure it out and solve it. That's what will maintain a marriage and raising kids and enable a kid to grow up healthily. However, if you're a loser, I don't want to call it a loser, but somebody who can't do that, you will crumble easier, and you won't be around for the kid, or the kid will suffer consequently and will be subpar on its health. So it's the attitude of the hero to go out, fight, take on the challenges, that is attractive. And also, like, a woman wants a guy who goes out and does something with his life and grows, develops, and protects also, because the hero protects its own kind. And of course, women want to be protected on average. So if you want to try this out, whenever you're in a situation, social situation, ask yourself, what would the hero do? And it's very funny because I think most of you know exactly what the hero would do in certain situations. Let's say talking to a girl or with friends, or if a challenge occurs, you know, because the hero archetype is a subset of our subconscious, of the collective unconscious, which is deeply ingrained. So you know, like, the hero is deep within you, and it's there, so it knows what to do, but you need to let it come to fruition, let's say. Finally, the last tip is become a civilized monster. Now, naivety is unattractive, because if you're naive, life can easily knock you down because it takes you by surprise with its harshness, and then you're out of the game. Which, if you're raising a family and you're married, that's not good, because then you may fall into a depression, which is terrible, or you may lose your motivation, etc., and then you can't get access to resources, on and on. So naivety is bad. Now, if you develop your acknowledgement of how evil you can be, how you can turn people's lives into hell, including your own life, you will grow this certain respect for yourself. You understand the world realistically. You acknowledge that everybody else can produce hell also. Your face goes heavy. You become more stern. That's attractive. And you develop a certain type of aggression in your face, I think. But the key here is not to exercise that aggression and that evil. It's to restrain it. It's like you want to be aware that you're a loaded gun, which you are, but you voluntarily choose to not fire the bullet. And that's attractive. It's also, to a degree, relevant to your philosophy of evil. You need to understand that humans are capable of serious evil, and you are yourself. And you to acknowledge that you must never manifest it, because you can really turn your life and the people around you, their life, into a terrible state of suffering. And yes, that's very important. And you become less neurotic because you don't acknowledge the petty things in life anymore, because you know, in the biggest grand scheme of things, life could be a lot worse, which it could be. So you become less neurotic, and that means more self-confident, less emotionally unstable, which is attractive. And it's also, you become a bit aggressive, not exercising it, but your aura is more aggressive, which is also sexually attractive to women, I think. And so it's also a bit of the story of Beauty and the Beast. So girls want to tame a bad boy, turn like an animal, a beast, into something loving and caring, but is still able to be a beast, and still is a beast inside, but wants to be tamed. Because there's no fun in taming a nice guy who's already tamed. There's no challenge in that. So that's also very key. So these were 4 tips on how to or what makes a guy psychologically, or let's say non-physically attractive. It's where he lies in the social hierarchy, his level of IQ conscientiousness, how well he embodies the hero archetype, and finally whether he's a monster, a civilized monster. And also what I forgot to say, why the social hierarchy is key, because women tend to choose a mate across and upwards in social hierarchies, which is the concept of hypergamy. So the higher up you are in level, the more women that will be attracted to you, because you are logically, mathematically going to be in their range of attraction, because you are higher than them, probably in the social hierarchy. So that's also key. And a little side note, it's very difficult for women who are higher up in a social hierarchy to find a mate, mathematically speaking, because they only mate across and upwards, and there's only a little bit of space above them to find a partner who earns more than them, has more access to resources, is a loving guy, is willing to raise a family, is conscientious, sympathetic, self-reflective. I mean, the list goes on, because they have high demands, these females, and that just intimidates a lot of guys also, and it's difficult to find one. That's just a little bit of a side note. So hence, 4 tips: social hierarchy, IQ conscientiousness, hero archetype, and your ability to be a civilized monster. Those are tips. One day I'll maybe make a video on how to actually incorporate these attributes more tangibly, because they may seem a bit abstract. I'll do that maybe. Okay, so I hope this video could help you, and maybe you can reflect on it and see what you think. Thank you for listening.